Hi, I'm DrDeb. Welcome to episode 10 in our playlist, Marriage Situations. If you remember last situation, number 9, Larry walked in the door and apologized. Well, this never happened in his life. So something's different. And Cheryl is shocked. So shocked, in fact, that she bursts into tears. Well, that's pretty normal, but let's do a little analyzing, okay? Why is she bursting into tears? Well, there's a release, right? She didn't know where he was, and now he's come home. Remember, Cheryl's one fear was fear of abandonment. And it looked like he was abandoning her. He never came home all night. She had no idea where he was. He didn't take any phone calls. He didn't make any phone calls. Okay, so he walks in the door. He apologizes. He throws his coat down on a chair, and she bursts into tears. So part of those tears are just a release. But part of those tears are a little bit of self-pity too. Let's be honest. If we got Cheryl sat down in a chair separately, like if the therapist rushed over there and said, "What's all that about?" part of it would probably be honest that she feels sorry for herself. Why shouldn't she? She's been mistreated by this guy for decades, and now he's apologizing. You know, it kind of brings up all the times that he didn't apologize and should have apologized. And so she is naturally going to feel sorry for herself. That doesn't mean, guys, that you shouldn't apologize. Or ladies, if you did something that needs apologizing, it doesn't mean you shouldn't. But please understand that part of the reaction might be the other guy feeling sorry for themselves, that they had been picked on wrongly all these years. And part of those tears were anger, because tears often will hide anger. It is a defense. It is a protection. When you want to get angry and you want to take a gun and shoot somebody and you can't do that, you might just break down in tears. It's a lot safer. It leads to less fighting and no jail time. But the anger is real, because the anger is about all those times and all those decades that Larry did not treat her right. And it reminds her, what is this going to be? Is this going to make up for all that? Is he done? He apologized and he's done? That's a good question. And it's an important question, right? It's an important question for him eventually to have to deal with. But right now, that's not what happens. Larry threw his jacket on the chair and took off his cap and threw it down and went up to bed and collapsed into sleep. But as Larry was falling asleep, he had to admit to himself that he was sorry. He apologized. See, guys, this is not a Hollywood movie where the person who is the protagonist does the right thing and everything ends happily ever after. Most of the time, our defenses don't work that way, right? We might do the right thing, but we don't feel good about it because our defenses, our protectors, don't want to make us vulnerable. They want to keep us safe. And anytime you apologize, you are vulnerable. You're vulnerable to the other person coming back at you with, now you're apologizing, which would be wrong, right? That wouldn't be the right thing. And a Hollywood script wouldn't include it. But, you know, I'm a therapist. I deal with real life. And in real life, that's what people unfortunately will do. And the look on Cheryl's face, combined with the tears, showed that she was not happy. And so he had this in his stomach, this knot tightening in his stomach after a whole night of trying to figure himself out and who he was and where he was going. And he came in trying to do the right thing. And he got shot down for it. At least that's how he felt, because Cheryl cried. Now, I want to just share with you a lot of bad reactions, unhealthy reactions that people have to someone else crying, which are not fair. But hey, your protectors are your protectors. So just like Cheryl had her protectors feeling self-pity as well as anger toward him, along with that release, he has his protectors. They didn't all go evaporate, So one of his protectors doesn't like when people who have been hurt act like they were hurt. Let me say that again. If a hurt person shows their pain, that bothers Larry. Because them showing their vulnerability means what? It means that he did something wrong. And he's once again to blame. He's once again in the wrong. It's always me. How many of you have experienced that, right, guys, in your lives with your partner? You do the right thing, and it comes back and slaps you in the face as somehow wrong. He apologized, which was the right thing. But Cheryl's anger showed him that maybe he shouldn't have. Because women will manipulate you with their tears. They just want to get something out of you. Well, that's not true. For him, tears were no good at all. Here's another thing about the tears. Larry, if you remember, had this father, which was win at all costs, go for the gold, do what you need to do to get there. No crying, no tears allowed. If you fumble, if you hurt yourself in the process, physically or emotionally, don't pay attention to it. Well, Larry learned his lesson really well from that father of his, didn't he? So when Larry learned that lesson, what did it mean? It meant squashing down his own tears. He couldn't cry. He literally never cried. People wondered, how could he go to his father's funeral and not cry? Or his mother's. He didn't cry. He couldn't cry. He couldn't bring himself to tears because that would be a distraction from going for the gold. That's Larry's upbringing. So part of his reaction to his wife's tears, outside of this fear, she's manipulating me and she's making me feel bad and she's making me feel guilty that I did something wrong, part of it is something else. It's true jealousy that he can't cry. He's not allowed to cry. And at the same time, it's confusion. What is crying? Like, he can't feel it. That has been smothered inside of him. So if he doesn't know what his own crying is all about, he just has this vague feeling of discomfort with her tears. They stir something up in him that he doesn't exactly know what it is. Something that really should be part of a normal, healthy person. We all should be able to cry when something deserves crying. It's okay to cry, but not for someone like Larry. So he has this really uncomfortable feeling. Now, please understand, between you and me, he didn't do something wrong. He did something right for a change. It was good. The fact that she reacted that way, that's okay. She's allowed. She has her parts and her defenses, and that's how she reacted. He, instead of continuing to be self-driven as he was when he was driving all night, has started to become reactive. This is perfectly normal. That's what happens to people. They become reactive to the other person, and then their parts and the other person's parts are opposite each other, trying to wage war. That's what happens. It's normal, but not helpful. However, the fact that he finally did experience this discomfort, this feeling that this is weird, is good. Because see, when you wade into new territory and you get to a place where in that new territory, you're starting to connect to yourself and the self of another person and to stories outside of the one that you conveniently keep telling yourself that they're wrong and you're right. When you start to connect to your own compassion and maybe confusion and search for clarity to lift that veil, that's all good. One of the things that I would like you to have is a method for doing that. So please go to my website, DrDeb.com, and sign up for my newsletter where you will get a free download with lovely music in the background of a meditation to get to your true self. Sound good, right? Try it out, no charge.